Video by Emmanuel Isaiah Smith.
Hello, good evening. It is your host, Emmanuel Isaiah Smith, and today's date is Friday, November 28th, 2025. The time is 6:52 p.m., and I am in Kendall, Florida. The topic of today's lecture is rigged contest. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to let you know right up front that I tend to do these lectures outdoors, and I may have to raise or project my voice from time to time in order to drown out the background noise. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into the meat of the matter here, the main talking point of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Rigged contest. When you talk about clandestine gang stalking, you're talking about a state-sanctioned disruption mechanism, a state-sanctioned social engineering mechanism, a state-sanctioned disenfranchisement mechanism, a state-sanctioned vehicular accident mechanism, a state-sanctioned interpersonal relationship sabotage mechanism, a state-sanctioned workplace mobbing mechanism, a state-sanctioned slander, libel, and defamation of character mechanism, a state-sanctioned murder mechanism. These are all of the things that the clandestine gang stalking product contains, namely the state-sanctioned gang stalking product that was implemented into the United States legal code post 9/11 in a series of national security measures, essentially passed as a component of these national security measures, typically in bills that are anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 pages long, that no one reads and no one analyzes before it's made law. These various national security measures were implemented on the coattails, of a national security bill. And these measures, these mechanisms, this clandestine gang stalking that I've talked about so frequently, particularly over the past 10 years, is tantamount to an American embarrassment, an American cataclysm, an American catastrophe, and an American setback. I don't see the United States progressing as a sovereign territorial entity while this disgusting, hostile, and violent program is allowed to continue. And I would like to give you, ladies and gentlemen, a refresher course in the various adjectives that I use for the liaisons, undercover operatives, and gang stalkers themselves that run about using this clandestine signaling mechanism that originates in the realm of the Departments of Defense and Justice. The adjectives I use for these people are useful idiots. I call them degenerates. I call them deleterious to society. I call them annoying. I call them thugs. I call them vile. I call them barnacles. I call them schmucks. I call them dirtbags. I call them scumbags. I call them jerks. I call them pieces of trash, pieces of garbage. I call them pieces of shit. I call them jerk-offs, jerkwads. I call these liaisons, operatives, and stalkers many names. And many names indeed do I call them. And I'd like to give you another refresher course in the various types of gang stalker that is essentially unleashed upon society by the decentralized national security and intelligence mechanism here in the United States on a daily basis under the guise of, as I said previously, social engineering, human experimentation, human behavior modification, data gathering, essentially the ability of the state to push the limits of one's constitutional rights and liberties. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about a clandestine thuggery mechanism for the ages. And quite frankly, Emperor Nero of the Roman Empire, Pol Pot of Southeast Asia, Idi Amin of Uganda, Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union, Adolf Hitler of Nazi Germany, Benito Mussolini of Fascist Italy. None of these men devised such a deceptive and deleterious scheme as clandestine gang stalkers, and all of these men certainly devised schemes in their tenure as heads of state that surely can be classified as crimes against humanity. Do not get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Southeast Asia, Uganda, Russia, Germany, Italy, all beautiful countries, all cultural marvels in their own right. All of these countries have produced wonderful leaders in their time. All of these countries have produced questionable leaders in their time. Okay? But every country has that leader or leaders that they have to do some apologizing for. It's just the nature of being a head of state, ladies and gentlemen. There is no such thing as a perfect person, ladies and gentlemen. So by proxy, there is no such thing as a perfect government. There is no such thing as a perfect Congress. There is no such thing as a perfect high court. There is no such thing as a perfect head of state. Okay? But the discipline of being a human being on this earth is the pursuit of perfection. Okay? Human beings have religion at their disposal, history at their disposal, academia at their disposal, technology at their disposal. Okay? Self-learning and personal experiences that a human being can recall that will assist them in the pursuit of perfection. People should ever be thriving, or striving rather, for perfection. Institutions should forever strive to be perfect. Governments should never cease in their endeavors to be perfect. The pursuit of perfection is what being a mortal is all about. But clandestine gang stalking, ladies and gentlemen, is that enterprise that hinders the pursuit of perfection. How can one be excellent in this world that we live in? The Greek philosopher Aristotle, who lived 250 years, give or take, before Jesus Christ, said that we are what we repeatedly do. So excellence is not something that you simply do. Excellence is a habit. Excellence is something that you become. Excellence is something that you eventually come to accomplish without even trying, because excellence is what you are. If we are to be excellent, then we must live excellent lives. The only way to live an excellent life is to pursue a greater ideal than just your own dark fantasies and desires. What is the allure of gang stalking? The allure of gang stalking is the ability to appear perfect without really striving for perfection. The ability to appear excellent without striving for excellence. The ability to appear swift or quick or forthright or ethical or upright without actually being any of these things. It's a quick and easy way of asserting yourself as being above your fellow American. It's a quick and easy way of asserting yourself as being superior to your fellow American. It is indeed a way of easily unleashing and unloading the cares of your day-to-day life in a disgusting, degenerate, hateful, vile, deleterious, ignorant, spiteful, useless, and moronic way against your fellow American, with protections by the state and with protections by your fellow gang stalker. Ladies and gentlemen, I assert to you this day that clandestine gang stalking is animalistic behavior magnified with the power of the state, the power of the judiciary, and the power of Congress all rolled up into a ball of deleterious madness and unconstitutional thuggery aimed at a group of select United States citizens called targeted individuals. There are those in the establishment of this country that will say, we don't see anything happening. We don't know what these people are talking about. We've had 2,000 people come to us in the last year alone through FBI reports saying that they're targeted individuals, and we think all 2,000 of them are psychotic. There is no gang stalking. There is no street theater. There is no synchronization. America is now as it's always been. Well, I realize, ladies and gentlemen, how much of an embarrassment this is for the United States. But so what? The United States needs to pull itself up by the bootstraps. Own up to this magnificent Satanism. Apologize for it. And never do it again. Never do it again in the interest of democracy. Never do it again in the interest of human rights. Never do it again in the interest of national security. Never do it again in the interest of your state rights. Never do it again in the interest of your federal rights. Never do it again in the interest of freedom. Never do it again in the interest of inalienable rights. Never do it again in the interest of human progression through this world in which we live. Ladies and gentlemen, this country has seen enough tyrannical screw-ups over the past 200 years. We've seen enough. Of course, there are those in the Department of Defense, in the Department of Justice, in various military and semi-military and law enforcement and semi-law enforcement agencies that want to be good. They want to be dynamic. They want to go above and beyond. They want to do their jobs with distinction. They want a civil order. They want law and order. They want order for all so that all can live good lives. And they themselves want a nice, clean America for each other and for the citizens of this country because it makes their lives and their jobs easier. No law enforcement, no military member is going to say to you, I like a criminally ridden America. I like an America that's degenerate in its legal acumen. I want an America that is riddled from top to bottom with degenerates. They'll say the opposite. They'll say, I want an America that's clean. I want an America that's proper. I want an America that's progressive. I want an America that is the best America that we could possibly have. Because when people are successful, the economy booms, the government's getting its tax resources, it's giving back to the people, you're raising your progeny, they're learning how to be good citizens, and then the cycle starts all over again with the new generation. No one wants an America where people are allowed to go about their day acting and conducting themselves like degenerates and getting away with it. If gang stalking were made a federal crime tonight, who'd go to jail for it right away? How much data do we need? How much evidence do we need? How much testimony do we need? How much video evidence do we need? How many instances and scenarios do we need? How much video surveillance do we need to make gang stalking a federal crime right now, punishable by up to 30 years in prison and a $15,000 fine? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have for the past 7 months very gleefully and joyfully, as a student of the law, as a student of humanity, as a student of clandestine gang stalking, done citizen patrol in Kendall, Florida, over in the Olympic Park area, and I've enjoyed it. It gives me some semblance of the law enforcement mechanism over and above what I ever knew before. Being a part of it is a lot nicer than simply just requesting it or summoning the law enforcer or asking for the law enforcer or dialing the law enforcer. Being a part of that mechanism yourself is definitely something that has brought me closer, at least in my mind, to the law enforcement mechanism, but it's also helped me understand human nature better, and it's helped me understand gang stalking a lot better as well, because there's a lot of it going on in Olympic Park. A lot of signaling going on. Okay? Now, there are obviously going to be some people in various walks of life, various backgrounds. It'd be difficult to give you some semblance of all the backgrounds that there could possibly be in defense capabilities and law enforcement capabilities. It would be impossible. I mean, you have so many of them. You have the federal law enforcers. You have the national security element. You have the intelligence element. You have the state trooper element. You have the local law enforcement element. You have the sheriff deputy element. You have the undercover operative element. You have You have the community watch element. Okay? You have the cyber crimes element. Okay? You have those that are constantly running license plates and taking pictures. There's the drone element. There are law enforcement drones around that are getting pictures of everything you could possibly imagine. Okay? Law enforcement has evolved. Okay? It is no longer simply officers patrolling. It is a very interconnected, highly technological, defense-centered unit. It is strategic in nature, more strategic than it's ever been before. You have any idea how easy it would catch your average Joe Schmo blow-mo gang stalker running down the street using signals on people? All right, the average Joe Schmo driving around in a car looking for vehicular signals so they could dart in front of somebody with the intention of hitting them and running them over. You have an idea how easy it would be for modern day law enforcers and military personnel with all of the training, all of the technology, all of the stratagem at their disposal. They could demolish gang stalking. Within 30 days, they could demolish the whole program as if they were playing a video game. I'd like to see gang stalking destroyed in an embarrassing fashion. It is a disgusting, disgusting program. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, it is a biohazardous program. Okay, part of the attack repertoire of gang stalkers is the spreading of biohazardous diseases through various mechanisms. It's particularly through the airborne bacteria mechanism. Okay, clandestine stalkers are oftentimes signaled as a part of their daily mission to a targeted person that they have been pre-instructed in a clandestine fashion to spread germs to, using any number of disgusting and horrible bodily functions. I mean, look at me, ladies and gentlemen. I have constantly needed antibiotics throughout 2025. Constantly. Because of these stalkers here in South Florida constantly standing around me, sitting around me, walking past me, riding past me, anything they can possibly do to spread germs or diseases, they'll do. Because it makes them feel better than you. It makes them feel superior to you. It makes them feel tougher to you. It makes them feel above you to know that they can spread germs to you anytime they feel like it. All they got to do is wait for the signal. And they can do so anonymously with no consequences, no recourse, and no repercussions at all. Because they're doing it as a part of a unit. They're doing it as a part of a fraternity. They're doing it as a part of a cult. They're doing it as a part of a strategy. They're doing it as a part of a mechanism. They're doing it as a part of this new nation that we found. It's called the Gang Stalker Nation. And it has permeated every crevice of national, state, and local government. All right? Every federal building has a handful of stalkers. Every state building has a handful of stalkers. Every localized taxpayer-funded building has their handful of stalkers. It's being used as a security mechanism of some kind, but it's not a security mechanism. It is a preemptive instigation mechanism that's essentially aimed at the constant detainment, punishment, and irritation of certain persons at the hands of other persons for their own amusement, enjoyment, or with the expectation that the targeted person lashes out in some way, causing some sort of a fracas in which the targeted person gets apprehended by the law and the instigator ends up looking like some little local hero or something. Hey, I got one, everybody. That one we were scheming on, I got him. And if we all band together, you all give me testimony, we can make him look like a real jerk in a court of law. And we might even get him some jail time. Who's with me? And all the stalkers raise their hands. We're all with you. We're all brothers in the cause. Brothers in the cause of starting instigations out in public and getting somebody in trouble who otherwise wouldn't be in trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine that person who never felt like they've ever accomplished anything in their life. Imagine that person who feels like their life is just zooming past them and that nothing's getting better. Imagine that person who never felt like they were anything special. Those people that they've gone through their life and they've seen on their television, on their magazine, in their movies, on their cable, and some in real life. Overachievers, people who have done it all. Athletes, entertainers, news personalities, movie actors, television stars, news journalists. Those hero police officers you see on television, those hero military people you see on television. Those young entrepreneurs that do something magnificent and start wonderful companies. Okay, those Fortune 500 CEOs, those Fortune 100 CEOs, those mega pastors. You're always looking at people who are highly successful in this society in which we live. People are infatuated with overachievers. What if somebody says to themselves, you know what, I can't be a damn overachiever because I don't have any damn talent, but if I can plug into this gang stalking mechanism, well, at least I can assert myself as better than somebody else. So they plug into gang stalking. They get with Uncle Lester or whoever they got doing gang stalking for them, and they plug right in. And they get to learn the signals and various verbal commands and vehicular motions. They learn how to follow them to a target's location, and they pester them. Because it's easier to get away with this pestering mechanism when you're in groups and when you have a common creed, a common cause, a common background, a common purpose. And that's essentially to assert yourself over other people, make yourselves feel better than others, and get away with it cleanly. You go home to your families that night and watch SpongeBob SquarePants after a nice day of stalking. And you'll have to pardon me, ladies and gentlemen, I got a bit of incongestion today. I had some incongestion in one of my previous lectures as well. You'll have to pardon me. From time to time I get these. Once I get some antibiotics in my system, it goes away. But like I said, there are constantly these stalkers, these cowards, these weasels, these earthworms, okay, posing as human beings, constantly in my space, constantly flinging diseases at me through the air. It's totally disgusting. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll have you know that gang stalking is territorial in nature. It's regional in nature. I've lived in Ohio, Tennessee, and South Florida, and I've experienced gang stalking to varying degrees in all three. I first started seeing heightened levels of gang stalking in the state of Ohio around 2015. And that's when I first started researching gang stalking. And when I came across people's experiences on various online forums, I just knew that that's what I was experiencing, because my experiences were so close in nature and in scope to their experiences. Okay, and I don't want to hear any of that psychiatric babble right now. I don't want to hear it. Well, anyone who thinks that this is happening to them is obviously psychotic. Yeah, you guys are exhibiting all the same experiences because you are all suffering from the same mental disorder. I don't accept that. I reject that. That is a part of the perception filter that that gang stalkers use to deflect the issue and to avoid accountability. Unfortunately, when it comes to disenfranchisement and systematic attack mechanisms in the United States, they have always had perception filters that are devised to deflect blame and responsibility from the attacker. Okay? Now, it's obvious to me that targeted individuals are on their own in this endeavor. Okay? No one is getting ready to jump in and assist. That's what it looks like, but that's okay. As far as I can tell, there are lots of vigilant and fortuitous targeted persons online that have decided to take up the cause themselves. Okay, and that's provided I'm not the only stalker or the only TI in the country. There are lots of targeted individuals apparently who have gone to the internet to lay out their experiences and do the very best they can. Me, I've taken an ultra vigilant and an ultra administrative stance to my gang stalking campaign, because I believe my gang stalking campaign is unique from other people. And the reason I say that is because, when you look up testimony from other targeted individuals, you'll see a video or two, or maybe you'll see a handful of videos, and then you never see or hear from that person again. That self-proclaimed or alleged targeted individual, that TI, you never see or hear from them again. And it strikes me as odd, because it's obvious that their targeted campaign has not ceased. It's obviously still going on. Okay, this is something that has to be turned off by Congress, turned off by the Supreme Court, turned off by the president himself. This is something that has to be turned off by high legislative executives. So if you were a TI talking about this stuff in 2011, 14 years later in 2025, you're still a TI. You're still a TI by law, and you're still a TI by practice. I suppose certain TIs have more energy than others. I consider myself to be one of the more energetic targeted individuals on the internet. I've been talking about gang stalking for the last 10 years, and I'll talk about it for the next 10 years, whether or not I'm in a gang stalking campaign. Okay, whether or not this rigged contest, this fake game called gang stalking still plagues my mortal life going forward, I will still talk about it and its auspices as a constant reminder to humanity that such thuggery doesn't belong within the reaches of any government, company, or person. All right, all those adjectives I used at the beginning of this video to describe gang stalkers, I mean them. Okay? Deleterious undercovers, deleterious liaisons, I mean what I'm saying here. I've tried to be diplomatic, but you all don't appear to respond to diplomacy. So I'll just keep doing things the way I've always done them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes gang stalking presents itself to you as a game. It presents itself to you as some sort of a puzzle. It presents itself to you as some sort of an artificially rendered conundrum or problem that you have to solve in order to win. It isn't that. It isn't that. It is a state-sanctioned attack mechanism in which persons' mortal lives are offered up by liaisons and undercovers as fodder for gang stalkers so that their lives can have more meaning. Some people in this world, their lives only have meaning or purpose if they are able to do horrible things to other people. Okay, as a human mechanism, being able to do awful things to other people gives some people joy, satisfaction, fulfillment. All right, I and my significant other Lori here in South Florida, particularly in Miami-Dade County, experience these things daily, regularly. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, a little incongestion. So it's just disgusting human behavior. I mean, from time to time in the trajectory of the human race through the ages, we see instances of disgusting human behavior. And from time to time, that disgusting human behavior manifests in large groups. You know, it manifests as gang stalking. It manifests as terrorism. It manifests as malfeasance. It manifests as organized crimes. It manifests as dirtbag behavior, sleazebag behavior, violent behavior, animalistic behavior. It manifests as all these things. And it's state protected and state funded and state appropriated. It's even monitored by the state, although the state doesn't intervene as far as I can tell. Once a stalker gets a signal to do something, they're off. They're off to the races. And there's no end in sight. Now, I do believe that there are a number of other persons in the federal establishment that understand what gang stalking is described to be. And they understand that the societal establishment here in the United States, the political establishment here in the United States, even the law enforcement and psychiatric establishments in the United States, a lot of them look at what people are saying and say, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe my America is capable of such a thing. Well, not only is your America capable of such a thing, your America is capable of much, much worse. All right, it's by the grace of the Almighty Creator that I was able to put the dots together, or connect the dots as they say, and discover gang stalking as it exists. I can better protect myself. I can better protect my significant other, Lori. If I didn't have the ability, the resources, the capacity to observe, to where I was able to point out, understand, document, research, and communicate what gang stalking is, there's no telling what they'd try. Alright, the people that practice gang stalking do so with the expectation that it puts them above the law, above the Constitution, above their fellow man. Okay, imagine a world where you can do anything to anybody. All you got to do is wait on the signal. That's when you know your act of thuggery is safe. Imagine a world where stalkers of all races and genders and ages and religions and socioeconomic backgrounds and political leanings and occupations can all come together and pester their fellow man endlessly with no recourse. Okay, that's the America we live in today, ladies and gentlemen. It's not this isn't a science fiction idea. This is not a fantasy or anything of that effect. This is live, real life, disgusting, annoying, harassing, and attacking human behavior towards other humans. It's all of these things. Alright, it is the antithesis of the kind of life that the United States Constitution guarantees people. And you got people that run around and say to themselves, well, we work 9 to 5 every day, or we work 18 hours a day, or 15 hours a day, or 14 hours a day. We work ever so many hours a week. We make ever so much money a year. We pay this much in taxes. We put this much in our IRA. We put this much into our kids' college fund. We do this much for our kids. We put this much in our church buckets during the tithing service. We donate this amount of money to this charity or that charity every year. We are the quintessential American citizen, so we can attack, pester, and disgust our fellow man endlessly with no recourse because of who we are as citizens. We pay taxes. We're the cream of the crop. We're the registered voters. We're the ones that live in good, clean neighborhoods and raise good, clean children and have good, clean marriages and go to good, clean churches and do good, clean things for good, clean people. We have a right to kick our feet up every now and again and pester a targeted person if it helps our lives mosey on a little easier. If it gives us just that much amusement. If it helps us relieve the stress of our day-to-day lives, we'll just take a signal or two, walk over to a target and cough on him or something like that just to see what his reaction will be. We know we're being protected by the state. We know we're being protected by other stalkers. We know the people that we're doing this to are targets anyhow and experience this kind of hate every day of their lives. What's one more instance of some germs spreading to a target? He'll probably run into another instance not 10 minutes after I leave. What good is his life compared to mine? What good is his existence compared to mine? We should be able to do this to any target we want to, regardless of the discomfort or the anger, the resentment, or the pain that it causes this other person. Why? Because we contribute to society more than they do. That's got to be the reason for this. We're the contributors, they're not. Okay? We're the exemplary citizens and they're not. We're the ones that have the good qualities and he doesn't. So for us to walk up to him or walk up to her, or maybe we have a group of people and we mosey on over to him after we hear a signal of some kind and pester them to the point of an interaction where an altercation comes. Well, if that's what energizes me, if that's what amuses me, if that's what entertains me as a gang stalker, as a contributing citizen, as someone who's plugged into this thuggery, then why can't I do it? I'm going to go right back to my 9 to 5 tomorrow morning and continue contributing. And who knows where this person's going to go after? My existence is of use to this country and his ain't. So I should be able to use any kind of pestering methods on him that I want to. And doing so with protection so that me and my family are safe after I walk over and piss this guy off. Those are the kinds of weasels that you got in gang stalking, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the kinds of degenerates you got in gang stalking, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the kinds of cow turds that you got doing gang stalking, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the kinds of individuals you got doing gang stalking, ladies and gentlemen. Now you see why some targeted individuals get so withdrawn. Sometimes targeted persons just want to be by themselves. And the reason they just want to be by themselves is because when they're out and about, they're running into dirtbags like that all the time that have that same mentality. Some people operate on what their family does. Well, my dad's a military commander, or my son's a Marine, or my mama's a judge, or my granddaddy is a councilman, or my niece is a school teacher and my nephew is a school guidance counselor. We have real meaningful people in our family. We have assets in our family to this country. That gives me the right to sort of take these signals and mosey around and fool around and pretty much do whatever I feel like doing to another U.S. citizen. Because of who my family is and because what we're capable of with respect to the paying of taxes and contributing to American society that this target over here that we were signaled to may not have. He must be a fella that's not on the up and up. Otherwise, why are they signaling us to him as a suspicious person? It's obviously state sanctioned. Alright, who cares if gang stalking is tantamount to domestic terrorism on account of all the lives it claims? Me being a upright, upstanding citizen, I should be able to participate in whatever I want to do. Now, if something happens bad to the next person, so what? I get to go back home to my family and cozy up by a nice roaring fire in a comfy sweater next to my dog Scruffy. And yes, I will be drinking hot apple cider and singing Merry Christmas with my family this year. And that guy whose food I contaminated when he wasn't looking, well, Merry Christmas to him too. He just might be doing Merry Christmas in an ER room, as opposed to me, who gets to spend Merry Christmas in a warm living room with my family opening presents. And even, ladies and gentlemen, the kinds of dirtbag, scumbag, sleazebag gang stalkers that are either haves or have-nots, as the saying goes, or rather people with possessions or people without possessions, or people with material wealth and people without material wealth. The two are split into two separate categories or gang stalkers, but both definitely practice gang stalking. It's just the person that lives in a $1 million home or a $2 million home or a $5 million home that pesters you is going to do it in a different manner than someone who lives in an apartment, or maybe they live in a dorm with a bunch of people, or a hostel with a bunch of people, or if they live in a shack somewhere, or if they're homeless. All people who practice gang stalking practice the same mechanism, and it's wait on the verbal command, wait on the physical gesture, wait on the vehicular maneuver, then you act. Now, I don't care if you're a millionaire or if you are a person who has nowhere to live, nowhere to lay their head at night. If you practice clandestine gang stalker, you are a degenerate. And the reason you're a degenerate is because you use a state-sanctioned signaling mechanism, one that is capable of harming people, and you do so on a daily basis, or at least on a semi-daily basis, without batting an eye. And you think you're going to get away with it, but you're not. Even if none of you knuckleheads are prosecuted for your crimes, one day the institution that you participate in, the institution that has essentially made you human, alright, that has made you feel real, that has made you feel purposeful, this institution called clandestine gang stalking, it will fall. And mighty and great will the fall of that institution be. And it'll be just as cataclysmic for you as the cataclysms that you've caused for every targeted individual the world over. Because like I say, ladies and gentlemen, it's starting to look like, and I'm not going to name any other countries because I've never visited any other countries besides Canada. And this was back in 1998. I was 13 years old. I wouldn't have known gang stalking if it had run across me back then. But I can't speak for other parts of the world. I can't speak for other countries, but it's starting to look like, based on some things I'm reading online, based on some things I'm hearing online, but there are other countries that got this too. Was it spread to that country by the United States? I don't know. Did this mechanism originate in the United States? I don't know. Lots of countries have had similar programs that have been run by various heads of state throughout the history of those countries. But what it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, is that a big chunk of this thing is conceived right here in the United States. Okay? Gang stalking presents itself as a contest. Okay? Gang stalkers versus TIs. Targeted individuals, you play for your freedom. If you do the right things, if you say the right things, if you make the right moves, if you get the right action, you'll win. You'll win your freedom. But it's a rigged game. It's the state versus the person. It's a cabal, indeed a standing army of gang stalkers, liaisons, and operatives against the target. It is high sophisticated technology used and wielded by the stalkers as weapons against just you, the target. They make it look like a one-on-one game of chess. That's how they try to paint it. And a lot of the stalkers these days, because I know they're being watched a little closer by the Departments of Defense and Departments of Justice, these stalkers are being watched just a little closer. They're trying to make it look like it's just a bunch of meaningless, hapless, buffoonish pestering, that it's nothing serious. They forget to mention all the state-sanctioned attacks and all the state-sanctioned assassinations and all the state-sanctioned robberies and rapes, the state-sanctioned burglaries, the state-sanctioned workplace mobbing incidents that have gotten targets fired, all the state-sanctioned instigations that have gotten targets arrested, oftentimes wrongly. Okay, the state-sanctioned child abuse mechanisms, the state-sanctioned food contamination, the state-sanctioned hospital visits, the state-sanctioned data intrusions, the state-sanctioned harm of a targeted person's loved ones. Okay, the state-sanctioned car accidents. Okay, all of these things play into clandestine gang stalking. All of these things are reasons why gang stalking is a rigged game. It's a rigged contest. It is not a fair fight. It is not a toe-to-toe battle. It is not a board game. It is not a game of chess. It is not a game of checkers. It is not a one-on-one sporting event like boxing or tennis. It is not a game of golf. Where all the players have equal equipment and start at the same hole. Targeted persons use the power of the state to attack, gang stalkers use the power of the state to attack people who have been pre-selected for this in a extrajudicial fashion. It's an elimination game, and your gang stalkers have all the cards in their favor. It is a duel between the state and the citizen, an undeclared war between the state and the citizen, and the state has a standing army of gang stalkers, nitwitted fools that care not about what their actions do to the next person. All they care about is being able to join this cabal in a cohesive manner. This program will fall, as do all degenerate, governmentally implemented programs throughout history have fallen, and the fall of this program will be embarrassing for those who participate. The fall of this program will be embarrassing for the country that has implemented it, and the fall of this program will be a triumph for those who withstood its evils. Now in the interest of human progression, I hope America succeeds and learns from this. After it abolishes this horrifyingly violent state-sanctioned evil, I hope it learns from this and never does anything like this again. This is something that I hope happens in the interest of humanity. And I hope if there's anyone else experiencing this in any other country, I hope that the fall of this program is equally as great, equally as cataclysmic, and equally as embarrassing for the governments of those countries, not just because it will put the victory in the hands of the targeted person, but because it will help our elected officials see, okay, our appointed officials see, our elected judges see, our appointed judges see, the entire governmental mechanism. It'll help everyone see why integrity in government, corporate social responsibility, and the affording of one's rights under the state and federal laws of the land is the right way to go. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen.